The defensive line was supposed to carry Clemson. That hasn't happened, and we'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And a big salute out there to the everydayers. You know who you are. You know how we do it here on Locked On. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday every single week. And if you're new to the show, welcome in. We hope you enjoy the show. 75% of you are not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on exclusive Clemson content right here by hitting that like and subscribe button so you never miss out throughout the week. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We said the defensive line for Clemson would carry them this season in 2025. And now that we're 7 games in, the production has been not terrible in moments, but anything but the domination that we had expected from guys like the returning guys like Peter Woods and TJ Parker. Those are 2 guys that I'm still scratching my head about. Where have they been? Why haven't they been so impactful on the team this season? You don't really, see. Can you think of a time when either one of those names riled up the fan base or just popped the top off of the stadium like you would see in past with the Clemson defensive line? TJ Parker and Peter Woods are still in the analyst's mind first-round draft picks. And Peter Woods, I saw on CBS Sports today, one mock draft has him, as of today, the number 4 overall pick in the first-round draft, or first round of the NFL draft in 2026. Number 4. I mean, that's higher than what Dexter Lawrence was taken as. And Dexter Lawrence was dominant. That's higher than even Christian Wilkins. And I know year over year things change, and it really depends on a lot of factors that still aren't there yet. Like what are the other guys in the group doing? Maybe this isn't as strong as a group as when those guys were out there, and maybe they are still going off of last year's results and last year's talent, or at least dominance, because they were much better last season than they have been so far this season. DeMonte Capehart and Stephylon Green have done their best, but really haven't jumped off the scene outside of Stephylon Green really against the Tar Heels, which now we know not much to brag about there because the Tar Heels are just not a good team. The guy who's really been helping out the team the most is the guy they brought in to actually help out the team the most, which is Will Helt. In that he was the transfer from Purdue that nobody expected to even be on this team. And then Dabo landed him in the transfer portal, and he's actually leading the way and been the guy that most people have talked about. Now, that's been the biggest disappointment for me. I think maybe we had too high of expectations to think they would be the same as the Power Rangers. Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence and Cleveland Ferrell, those types of guys, Austin Bryant, maybe we were giving them too high of expectations to think that they would keep up with those type of guys out there. But I still believe that this team and this group of defensive linemen should be more dominant than they are. And I don't really always think that it should be the fact that they're getting on the stat sheet. A lot of times defensive tackles don't get on the stat sheet as much just simply because, they're there to kind of take up and disrupt. And that's where the frustration lies, is that they're not taking up and disrupting. Now they're taking up blocks, but disrupting, not really. They're not shedding those blocks very much. More often than not, you see them kind of get locked up in blocks. Christian Wilkins, Carlos Watkins, Dexter Lawrence, Cleveland Ferrell, Huggy Bear, Albert Huggins, Scott Pagano. I mean, that group back from when they first won the first national championship, those guys were very good, but they were very disruptive and very, very physical. You were going to know when you're playing them, and you were going to be pretty scared to play them. That's why I get kind of confused at how can we still, as analysts, and maybe the NFL analysts know something that I don't know, but how can you still ignore what's happening right now with Clemson's defensive line and the lack of production that you're seeing? I mean, Peter Woods has 1 sack. Peter Woods or PJ Parker has 2 sacks. They're really not getting behind behind the line of scrimmage and getting back to the quarterback quickly. And even still, even if the stats were low, you would think that they would be disruptive. But in a lot of ways, it seems as if when you look back at LSU, when you look back at Syracuse and Georgia Tech and SMU, were any of those teams' defense or offenses disrupted at all? Put off schedule at all? I would say no. What do the numbers say? Well, the total defense is like 337 yards per game, 42nd nationally. So you think, okay, 42nd, that's not bad. But then they have 19, almost 20 first. They allow almost 20 first downs per game, which means that they're allowing the opponent to stay alive. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're allowing the offense to just stay on schedule. And then in the red zone, the opponents have scored 83% of the time, mostly touchdowns. Rarely is it field goals. Most of the time, 80% of the time, when they score, it's a touchdown. 14 touchdowns to 6 field goals out of 20 scores. And so Clemson is allowing a lot of points. They're allowing a lot of first downs. Not a ton of yards statistically, but still allowing offenses to kind of have their way. And that's what I think has been the biggest frustration so far this season, especially when you see the fact that Will Help, for example, has 4 total sacks. The guy that was brought in to supplement or like add to what you already had. Nobody thought he would be the leader. He's got more tackles for loss he's got more total tackles than TJ Parker and Peter Woods. He's got more sacks than both of those guys. That's where a lot of the frustration comes in. Also, more assists than TJ Parker. It's a big, big frustration there for me. Is this just one bad game or is it now a trend? I don't think it's a blip on the radar at all. It's definitely a trend that we've seen. And what hurts me the most is really those first downs, continuing to allow the offense to just get that next first down. I mean, if they would just stop 3 first downs a game, they'd be in the top 25 of the country. But those 3 first downs are allowing them to keep moving down the field. And then as we know that when they get in the red zone, they do allow touchdowns more often than not. And I get it. Peter Woods is getting doubled a lot more. But then you would also think that TJ Parker, that would open up more opportunities for him. And it just really hasn't. This team can't get much pressure at all unless they send almost the house. And that's the reality. It's just not dominant like we thought it would be. Hey, we're going to come back with why the team feels choppy during games and what Tom Allen had to say about it right here on Locked On Clemson. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. With more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else, from footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The swivel screen gives you a game-changing ability. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training on the other side without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Tom Allen is not really ripping up his team as far as effort. And a lot of fans feel as if the effort isn't there. But then the coaches are saying the effort is there. And it's hard for me to kind of push in on effort because we don't really know. I mean, maybe you could see some loafing plays here or there. But even Tom Allen mentioned that some of the plays where it looks like they're loafing could be due to the fact that their depth is just so poor. I don't know if this team will ever, or any team in college football will ever be able to have the depth as they used to, simply because the transfer portal has killed depth. Guys don't want to stay around and wait for their turn anymore. They want to go get their starting job. They want to go get their opportunity now. And Clemson has lost players by that reason. Maybe they weren't losing starters. And, maybe we were a little bit arrogant about the fact that they weren't losing starters, but a lot of these guys have moved on and become starters at other places. And Clemson is still sitting back here. Now they do have their starters, but they don't have anybody to replace them that they trust at all. Tom Allen, again, didn't rip the effort, but he's asking for consistency throughout the game, from the first snap, from the first step to every snap. And some of that, again, I think starts with being able to rotate and keeping guys fresh. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have to bring violence consistently. And maybe that kind of goes back to effort. Maybe it's not there, but it's just not consistent. That's for sure. If they're picking and choosing times when they can turn up the heat, well, maybe that is some sort of, load management, if you will, on the player's part. And I get it. The games are long games and pretty violent and physical. But when you're getting pushed around and not able to get a lot of pressure, if you can only get it once every now and then, it's just going to make it even more frustrating as you continue to go through. Tom Allen said, get off the ball, strike at your blocker, knock them back with confidence, consistently. A lot of it, too, to me, has issues with where they're going with their first step. I'm not seeing Peter Woods or TJ Parker blow by anybody, or blow anybody off the line from the very first step. More often than not, you do see them kind of get locked up in a battle at the line of scrimmage. And again, I can kind of give Peter Woods a little bit of a benefit of the doubt simply because he gets double teamed. So it's 2-on-1. But it's hard to me to know if this is something that is just effort, or is this something that is a result of what's happening at practice as well. Are the position coaches like Chris Rump and Nick Eason requiring a high level of execution at practice? And we already know that the offensive line is struggling and underperforming massively. So anybody, probably even Clemson's defense, would look amazing against Clemson's offensive line now that we know what we know. So maybe accountability hasn't been very high because they've been doing well ones-on-ones in practice. I'm telling you, if you're having success against Clemson's offensive line and you think that that's good enough, then you're probably being deceived, because the offensive line is just in shambles, in my opinion. They've got to sharpen up their technique and hopefully continue to push towards a level of expectation and accountability. Because you can't afford to just fix it by blitzing more. Clemson has the players that they should be winning with 4 guys up front. They've shown that they really can't do that. Middle of the road, the defensive lines, middle of the road, in my opinion, average defensive line. But the names on that defensive line are anything but average, and their paychecks are anything but average, as we know. Hasn't been disclosed publicly. I hope one day it is. Just like professionals have their paychecks disclosed or their salaries disclosed publicly, these guys need to as well. Hiding behind amateurism or students, athletes is a thing of the past as we continue to go down this road. And so accountability by what they're getting paid, accountability by expectations coming into the season. I can understand where Tom Allen doesn't want to blitz a ton more, because if you spend or if you pull from your coverage, then you're just exposing your team to straight up man coverage. And we know that they don't have really the speed or the length, and that hurts them as well. So it's kind of like you can't get out of your own way with this defense for Clemson. The studs that you thought would be dominant aren't getting the pressure that they need, aren't being disruptive that they need to be at the level that they need to be. And so then it suffers. And if you have to bring more, what happens when Clemson brings blitz pressure? They typically have to bring almost the house. They have to bring 6 or they have to bring 7. At that point, you're exposing your outsides, you're exposing your over the top. The defense is already letting the drives continue, converting on these third downs, getting these first downs, a higher amount of first downs, 60, what did I say, 66 overall first downs in the country. They're basically having to pay a heavy tax because their front 4 has just not been the standard. And that's why these games just don't feel like they can get any kind of momentum or be as dominant as they need to be. And that's why I still don't believe that these analysts are right. Maybe it's all pure measurables, but if I'm an NFL team, I'm taking a lot of caution with taking TJ Parker or Peter Woods, because you have to at some point admit that what you see is what you're getting and what you're going to get. And it's not just going to change. You're not just going to be developing it out of them. What kind of drills can they do? What can they do going forward? Well, I think Tom Allen mentioned it. They've got to find better rotation and get guys in there who are bringing that energy. Even if it's Jaheim Lawson, who is relatively undersized, They've got to find a better rotation of guys that can try to find some way to get the pressure that they need to, so that they're not exposed, and keeping and allowing the offense to just do what they want for an entire game. All right, hey, we're going to finish up this episode talking about some fixes that Clemson can do and that we can see in real time for the rest of the season. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. And let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you get is what you pay. And I love the zone deals. Pick your section, Game Time picks the seats, and you get to save big time. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We're not going to get a scheme overhaul, and I'm definitely not going to get my desire of going back to a 4-3, at least not consistently. But if you were to ask me, which I'm guessing you are because you're listening, but I would prefer Clemson go back to the 4-3. I don't really like the 4-2-5. It really has shown more harm than good. And that's what we're used to at Clemson, is the 4-3. And they have Jeremiah Alexander that they can throw in the mix, in my opinion. That would be an improvement on Wade Woodaz and Sammy Brown by themselves. Would it be an improvement on Khalil Barnes? Probably not, but then you could maybe move Khalil Barnes back to more of a traditional safety position. To me, that's not going to happen, though. The scheme overhaul, you won't see that on Saturdays. But what are some maybe measurable things that we want to see for this team going forward? Well, I know that in a lot of ways, we're seeing TJ Parker with Jaheim Lawson, but maybe you just start to overload one side of the field. Since Will Helt and Jaheim Lawson are more of the shining bright spots, maybe you have them overload one side and maybe to a Sammy Brown side, and you just go all speed on one side and funnel them or flush the offense into Peter Woods and TJ Parker. Maybe that's something that you can do and attack and make your strength the attacking side, and then your quote weakness is really some well-known household names of Peter Woods and TJ Parker, and you flush them into it and force the play to go that direction. Maybe that's something that could be an option. Getting a lot of pressure on first down as well. It seems as if the stunts and the twists work really well against Clemson. Maybe they need to do that against the other teams themselves as well. You want to be able to get to the quarterback as quick as possible. You can't let the offense pick you apart. You can't just sit back in zone and let them do what they want. I don't like the times where they just sit back and send only 4, because we've seen that that's not going to bring any pressure at all. So if it's an obvious pass down, put some speed out there with Lawson and Helt on one side and flush them into Parker and Woods. Maybe that's an option. To me, one of the better options I like is to get Jeremiah Alexander out there more. I'd like to see more of a 4-3 total. So that would be my maybe go-to solution overall. But the biggest thing is getting rid of, and it's like little small things, but getting rid of 3 first downs a game. Again, that would put you back into, on average, of the top 25 in the country. And when you get rid of a few first downs a game, then you have the opportunity to, or you're avoiding more red zone frustrations as well. Keep them out of getting trips there, and that will put them in a top 25 percentile as well of kind of locking you down. We've seen they haven't been bend, don't break. We've seen that they've kind of bent and then let them get into and score as well. So a couple of fans also asked me, well, would you just kind of go with a lot of the backups? My worry is that Clemson is struggling with their ones, and they're 3-4 overall with their ones. And I know that a lot of fans want to just put out the guys that are definitely going to be there in 2026 and get some tape on those guys and kind of see what they're going to have for next year. So kind of playing to next year. But if you do that, then you're really running a high risk of not making a bowl game at all this season, whether you do that on offense or defense. I know we're mainly talking about defense on this one. But when it comes to that, I can understand the desire to see some of those backups. But in my opinion, Clemson's going to need to go heavy into the portal in 2026. A lot of fans have said, well, are they going to have money? Well, Clemson has money, and they have the revenue sharing. That's implemented. That was implemented over the summer. 0.5 million of revenue sharing. So what you're buying in your ticket and what you're buying during the game, that's revenue that they're getting and they're sharing with their players. And so the players are getting paid, and Clemson has a good baseline to start with. Now, do they have competitive NIL compared to everybody else? Compared to most, they should. Compared to Ohio State, no, that's not the case. But compared to most in the ACC, yeah. Outside of one or two, maybe. So you can't tell me Clemson can't hang with money-wise. They're going to have to get some they're going to have spaces open to bring in new guys that are not high school recruits. And I think they're going to need to do that. So the ability to see your backups, not that important to me, because you should have a healthy number of transfer portal guys coming in 2026 to kind of right some of these wrongs. Tom Allen mentioned that he is looking for length and speed and guys who just have a love for the game. They're not worried about money, but they have a love for the game. But Clemson has to do the right things in the offseason to kind of fix the fatigue as well. He mentioned that he's just not happy with the rotation ability in the secondary. And I would agree. It seems like everybody that are the backups seem to be more out of position than they need to be, and seem to be all over the place more and less trustworthy. But in a lot of ways, I can understand where people say that this is the era of the transfer portal, and you're not going to have as much depth, not going to be able to hang on to as much depth as you used to. We thought the talent was there. We didn't think the base on this defense would be borderline a disaster. But when it comes to being a scary defense that people worry about, I don't believe that that's the case. When it comes to being a defense that has a ton of NFL draft picks, it doesn't feel that way, even though the analysts keep putting their names on these boards. It doesn't feel that way. And that's a big problem. And I don't know if it will be fixed in 2025 or we should even expect that. Because at the end of the day, these coaches are paid a lot of money to win games. And if they could fix it with any suggestion that you and I would have, they would have already fixed it because they would have already thought about it and tried it. I think the bigger problem is just they're going to have to get new players. And when you look at what this offseason is going to bring, it's not going to be getting new players because you want to improve. It's going to be getting new players because you have spots open that you just have to fill. So a lot of changes for this defense next season. Can they salvage what they have for this season? Well, there are still a few things they can try. But my belief is that there's probably still some losses coming up for this team along the way. Hey, I appreciate everyone being a part of the show again, this Wednesday edition of Locked On Clemson. Thank you for making Locked On Clemson your first listen. For your second listen, check out Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono breaking down the most interesting conference in college sports, from the rivalry to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.